And welcome back. This one's going to be another pretty simple lesson. It's not even really a lesson, this is just how I have my Procreate preferences set. If you wish to emulate them to make following along with my classes or tutorials a little bit easier, great. Do you have to? Absolutely not, but it's good to know where these settings are so you can kind of dial them in for yourself. So to get to settings, you have to be in a canvas, somewhat obnoxiously, but whatever. So I've opened a blank canvas here. I'm going to go up to the wrench on the top left. It'll come in as add or canvas. Go over to prefs. Basic top level things here. I think these are pretty much just default. I don't even know necessarily what that one does, except, right, got it. I wonder if that was in an update or not. Curious. Well, whatever. I don't mess with it, as you can tell. I think the only things I might have tweaked down here were the undo delay down at the bottom, but very rarely does that even come up. If you have an old legacy stylus or something like that, you can mess with those settings here. Pressure and smoothing allows for some pretty fine tuning of kind of how your pencil interacts with the canvas. I leave it on default. Unless I have a reason not to. Although I could see maybe if you had some fine motor issues or something like that, maybe putting some blanket stabilization and stuff might help, or if you just like that kind of pinstriping brush effect for yourself. We're going to go mostly to the gesture controls. This is where I've made most of my personal changes. I think most of everything else is just set to Procreate's default there. Smudge, you can set it so that if you use your finger versus the stylus, that will always just automatically use the smudge tool. I tried that for a while and I wound up not liking it because I got a lot of accidental smudging. Procreate's pretty good about differentiating, and so is the iPad, but I found that between updates for different software versions or whatever, sometimes it got a little bit weird. I've turned that off. You can set it accordingly. You'll notice that with all of these, they have almost the same menu, and it's talking about this square plus touch or square plus pencil. That square, I'll show you real quick, is this thing right here. Doot. That was supposed to be an arrow. I'm an art designer, or an instructor. I can't talk today. That square is what it's talking about. So that's a contextual button that you can, through these preferences, decide what it does. So I've got smudge, I've got all these turned off. That means I have to actually go and click the smudge tool to get it to smudge anything, which I found that I prefer. Same story with erase. You can set what combination of those will use the eraser automatically without having to select the eraser. I find that doesn't really work for me. I prefer to just click on the eraser and be deliberately in the eraser. I do have tapping the square to toggle on my assisted drawing mode, which is something we'll get into in one of the next videos. But I use the grid and perspective tools that are built into Procreate quite a lot for work. So this toggles whether or not that's on or off while I'm working without me having to, because it's like a whole menu. You have to go through to turn those on otherwise. So that's why I do it there. It's a little bit finicky sometimes, but that's okay. I also have my eyedropper tuned in to be square plus touching with my finger. That works pretty well. I don't really have a lot of complaints there. There is some, I think touch and hold is the default for that. I'm not sure, but I found that I liked this method better. Quick Shape is a tool that I use quite a lot for doing like fine detail design work. I think it's actually one of the best tools in Procreate. And the only thing that I've changed is I've turned the delay down to slightly lower than the default. That'll make more sense once you actually see me drawing stuff. But if you're using the default settings, it'll be slightly longer for you. Again, personal preference thing. I just found that I use it a lot, so speeding it up helped. The quick menu is a cool feature that I never use. You can enable it so that a gesture will pull up a radial menu that will allow you to have some more quick access options. That's a great tool. It's used on a number of other tablet and drawing softwares. I just never worked it into my personal patterns and gestures, so it it's nothing to me. It's dead. It's dead to me. But honestly, a good tool if you're into that, and enables a lot of other ways to do things. Full screen 4-finger tap is my default. I very rarely use this. Same. I don't even think I have clear layer. Well, I do have clear layer enabled. Well, that'll show you. I never use it. But again, it's just a quick gesture that you can set up to wipe out the whole layer. I actually kind of want to turn that off. I'm gonna, actually, because I don't like that I can accidentally delete a layer without realizing it. Copy and paste I do use is 3-finger swipe down for me. That'll bring up a copy, paste, duplicate, new layer type menu. Again, we'll see that in action at some point. Set these according. Layer select in general, yeah. Layer select, obviously, more of the same. Yeah, I have turned off using my finger. I've disabled touch action, so I've turned it so that only my stylus does things to my canvas, because again, I got a lot of accidental touches over time that were really annoying to me. And then rotate with pinch zoom, which I think is by default. I'm not going to reset my defaults because I like my setup right now to see, but I believe the pinch and zoom is a default setting. Again, these are just my preferences. If you want to do something else, absolutely go for it, but it's good to know where those tools are. That's it for this one real quick. On to the next.